Chapter 3 Satchitananda. Satchitananda, all these three are combined together called as Satchitananda. Sat is existence or reality, Chit is awareness, and Ananta is infinite or total. The natural form of Satchitananda is nothing but the natural form of Atma or Brahman, absolute truth. Sat means existence. In the analogy of snake and rope alone exists. This is called as Sat. Snake is non-existing one, but it looks as if it exists. Snake is not Sat. Rope is considered as Sat. Rope exists, but snake does not exist. Thus, which has existence is Sat. Sat aspect is Atma's, Brahman's natural state. Atma's natural quality. Atma's natural state. The Atma is having the Sat quality. Is the Atma a Jatam, lifeless matter? Or is it a conscious object? Jatam, lifeless matter, is the one which does not have self-consciousness. We don't call a man or an animal as a matter. Man knows his existence. Animal too knows its existence. This is being with self-consciousness. The book which we are reading, is it with self-consciousness? The chair which we are sitting, is it with self-consciousness? All these are not with self-consciousness, and we call these as Jatam, matter. Atma is not a Jatam, matter. It exists with self-consciousness, Chaitanya, life. Self-consciousness is a natural state of Atma, its natural form. Sat is existence. Chit is awareness, knowing nature. Atma, Brahman, is both Sat and Chit. We know what is Sat and we also know what is Chit. Sat is existence. Now, let us come back to the rope-snake analogy. Rope is the existing one. We are citing this as an example for Atma. Rope is visible to us. Does Atma exist like this? If it is existing, then how does it exist? Existence of the rope can be seen by you and me. So, we are clear about its existence. Does Atma exist like this? If Atma exists, then what is the nature of its existence? We see fire. Nature of fire is heat. Fire has existence. It expresses heat. Fire is the source. Its expression is heat. Like this, Atma, which exists with the quality of existence, does it express its quality of perception, awareness, or is this awareness existence? Does Sat exist as source, or is the Chit basis? The next attribute of Atma is Ananda, bliss. Ananda is expression of joy. Is Atma expressing joy every moment? Is it creating experience of bliss always? Is Atma's Ananda bliss an experience? Who is experiencing that blissful experience? Atma's third quality of Ananda is also referred as Ananta, infinite, endless. Ananta means endless, infinite, without any limitation. Only if we limit any object, then alone we can understand and experience it as an object. We cannot limit and perceive Atma, so it is called Ananta, infinite, endless. When we say Ananda, bliss, then it becomes an experience with its limitation, finiteness. But the meaning of Ananta, infinite, suits perfectly with Atma's quality. When we say Atma is an indescribable infinity, then it becomes Ananta. Now, if we try to fit Atma's this aspect of Ananta, infinite, with Sat and Chit, then what will happen? Atma's Sat quality is there, but it is infinite and endless. Atma's Chit quality is there, but we cannot describe by limiting it. If we are able to describe, then all become limited and finite. It will lose the status of Ananta, infinite, endless. Then how do we know Atma? Can't we know Atma? How did they know that one such thing like Atma is existing? Let us again come to the rope-snake example. One thinks and sees rope as snake, but rope does not think itself as snake. Rope is there. The person who sees the rope is also there. Only these two are true. Snake is only a projection and experience. This experience does not happen to the rope. This experience happens only to a person who sees the rope. If we see the rope as a rope, then snake disappears. The fear of snake also disappears. The problem is not either in rope or with snake. The problem exists only with the person who sees the rope as a snake. We described this person as Jiva, individual self. From the analogy of snake rope, we need to understand who is this Jiva. We understand ourselves as Jiva. Indeed, who are we? What is our natural state? Only this needs to be understood. In reality, our natural state is that of Atma, Atma Swarupa. The concept of individual self is in our imagination only. We misunderstand that we are Jiva. Our natural state is rope, not that of a snake. When we perceive and understand ourselves as rope, we are free from the experience of snake. When we understand that we are Atma, then we are liberated from the experience of Jiva and Samsara. As we see a rope as a rope, how can we see Atma as Atma? Can we see like that? Or when we come to know that there is nothing like a snake exists, can we assume that we have seen the rope which forms the basis for snake? Through the understanding that there is no Jiva, should we understand that our natural state is Atma? Should we understand that we are only the rope? Or should we understand that we are not the snake? Should we understand that we are Atma? Or should we understand that we are not the Jiva? For our eyes, only snake is visible. Rope is not visible. Only Jiva is visible to us, not the Atma. The rope is seen as a snake in an adequate light. In proper light, snake disappears and the rope is seen. Jiva, individual self, appears because of ignorance. In the annotation of wisdom, Jiva disappears. The Atma, which is the source of the Jiva, is perceived. Is it like this? What is ignorance? What is clear wisdom? We call wisdom as Chit aspect. What is Chit? What is wisdom or intellect? Is intellect all about properly understanding man as a man, tree as a tree, and an animal as an animal? Is it Chit? Is ignorance all about wrongly understanding a tree as a man, or a man as a tree, and a rope as a snake? We all have intellect. We do all our work using only intellect. If our intellect is not working, then it is not possible to understand what is said in this book. Not only that, we may not be able to lead a normal life if the intellect is not working. Intellect is needed even to know what is our intellect. What is that intellect that is known very well to us? How does our intellect exist? How does it act? We are walking on the road. Vehicles are surging in front of us. Only when we understand that they are vehicles, do we give way to them and go aside. What will happen if we do not understand that they are vehicles? We will not be able to give way to them. The drivers of the vehicle will go yelling at us, "Do you have sense?" It may also happen that some vehicles may hit us. Something that happens that we see and understand is termed as intellect by us. If we do not understand, we say it is ignorance. Is intellect all about understanding this way? Is this the Chit aspect? We buy a new book. The rear side wrapper of the book has some notes in very small letters. As the letters are very small, we are unable to read. We bring a magnifying glass and see. Now the letters are visible clearly. What has happened here? There is no flaw in our eyes. Our vision is as normal as that of others. We use lens to see something that is not visible to the normal eyes. What is the knowing factor in this? Is just seeing the letters clearly called knowing, or is it the ability to know that is called knowing? In reality, the ability of the eyes to see represents the knowing. When the ability is to see is passed through the lens, the letters are boldly visible. The magnifying glass does not modify our ability to see. It only magnifies the object and shows to us. It does not modify the knowing. It only magnifies the object and shows to us. It does not modify the knowing. It only magnifies the object that is to be known. Here, the knowing ability is not modified. The objects that are to be known are modifiable. With this knowing ability, we can know the letters, the objects, and the people. We can know by changing it again and again in many new ways. But there is no change in the knowing ability. That is natural, cannot be changed. Knowing is Chit. Knowing does not denote the object that is known. It only denotes the knowing. It denotes only the Chit factor, knowing. This knowing ability has the power to sense. It has vitality, life. This is the first level feature. Everything else that is seen and known is of the second level feature. Be it a tree that is seen or a human that is seen, both are of second level aspect only. Seeing alone is life feature, Chaitanya, the spirit. The thing that is seen is lifeless, material feature, Jatam, the matter. Nothing can be known in the absence of the ability to know, the knowing, Chit. The ability to know is the same, but the objects that are known keep changing. An example, a pleasant night time. We have a torchlight in our hand. We flash the torchlight on a person. Only that person is seen in the torchlight. Rest of the things are all dark. Now, we divert the flashlight to a tree. Now, the person has disappeared. Only the tree is seen in the light. In the darkness, we see each object by flashing the torchlight on them like this. Each object is distinctly seen. Now, without diverting the torchlight on anything, we divert the light to the open air towards the sky. Now, the light does not strike on anything. What do we see now? Nothing can be seen. Even the presence of light can be known only if any dust particles or smoke interrupts the light. Otherwise, the presence of light itself will not be known. Only in the event of a seen object being sighted can the light too be sighted. This is the knowing feature of ourselves. It does not show its existence on itself. Its exposure is only in the method of knowing the object that is being seen. The Chit quality is nothing but the existence of this knowing. Chit aspect alone is the knowing. What does our Chit aspect know? Even our Chit aspect knows through lens only, knows through a magnifying glass. The magnifying glass is not anything else, it is our sensory organs. Our Chit aspect alone knows the 5 different perceptions through the 5 different senses. We see, hear, taste, smell and feel. Knowing is one aspect, understanding is another aspect, but both work together. Chit aspect alone is the true knowing. That alone is the first level. Chit aspect that is seen through sensory experience is the second level. Understanding of those sensory perceptions through our idea is the third level. We see someone through our senses. That sensory perception is the second level. Through our perception, we understand that the image that is shown by our eyes is our friend. This is the third level experience. Understanding that he is our friend, we get some kind of happy experience in our mind. This is the fourth level experience. The first level, that is the source of all these layers, is the Chit aspect, awareness, inner quality. Other three qualities are related to the outer physical world, related to the external objects. But what we call as intellect or knowledge in our practical life is something different. We call the understanding of something rationally based on our experiences and perceptions as intellect. We do not consider the cognitive knowing of what we see and what we hear as intellect or wisdom. We consider all this as sheer sensory perception. We do not consider it as wisdom or intellect. Wisdom is the understanding of what we see, hear and feel, etc. that are converted into different forms of ideas based on our perceptions and discrimination as human, animal, tree, my friend, desirable or undesirable person, etc. If we fail to understand like that, it means that our intellect has not worked well. The rope snake example is also like this only. Rope should not be wrongly understood as snake. Rope should be perceived only as rope rightly. It is said like this there. Rational understanding means an understanding in the right manner, ideally with clarity of ideas without any doubt. But all these are the third level experiences. Our Vedic researches and the effort to understand that are in this third layer only. Only the Chit aspect, that is, knowing, exists as the first level, the first layer. The second and third layers might have existed keeping the first layer as the source. Knowing the first layer through these is not possible. The letters can be known by the lens, but the sensitivity to see cannot be known by that. All our senses are designed in such a way that they indicate only the external phenomena. Through the eyes that are designed for viewing, only the views can be seen. Sound cannot be heard by them. Similarly, the ears that are designed for hearing can only hear the sound. No views can be seen by them. The senses have not been designed to know the Chit aspect by converting them into a sensory experience. Chit is the source of all senses. We can only know those things that are shown by our senses. How do we identify and understand a human as a human and a tree as a tree? How is it understood that a friend as a friend? If at all we know something, that is nothing but the view shown to us by our senses. We cannot know anything that is not shown by the senses. No one can know. All our senses exist like mirrors that show the views, experiences that come in front of us by reflecting them. The senses do not keep anything on hold. All the experiential sights that were seen by our senses are recorded into our mind as memories. All the mental recordings are nothing but the consumptive experiences of the senses. But all those recorded experiences are a thing of past. With the help of these mental recordings, we understand our sensory perceptions, the views that are shown by the senses. Through this only, we understand human as human, animal as animal, friend as friend. Understanding the events through the mental recordings keep happening in the third layer. Here, the information gathered by us exists there and keep acting as our knowledge. All the reflections caused in the senses appear and disappear momentarily. No past experiences are stored and kept in our senses. Our mind only acts as a storage godown. It acts based on the information gathered. It thinks and understands. With the help of what is known, it also assumes what is not known by it. It borrows the mental recordings of others. Our mind that acts from the third layer alone tries to know the Atma, tries to understand the Chit aspect. It assumes the Chit aspect from the information it has gathered. Our Chit aspect does not try to do this. Even the senses that act from the second level do not involve in this effort. The third layer is a storage of past experiences, a mansion constructed by burnt ashes. In this third layer, only imaginations and dreams are possible. Current experiences are possible only in the senses, possible only in the second layer. Our senses do not try to reflect upon its source. This second layer does not try to know the Chit aspect in the first layer, that is its source. It only reflects what it comes across. Only this third layer, mind, is little different. In our practical life, only this third layer assumes significance. We consider the activities of this third layer as our superior wisdom. In a way, that is also right. As far as the first two layers are concerned, there is no discrepancy between human and animals. There is no discrepancy even in the Chit aspect in the first layer, nor is any difference in the second layer, which is the sense feature. Discrepancy occurs between human and animal based on the third layer that acts on the basis of the stored experiences. Only this third layer of the human acts in a different manner to the extent of considering it as rational, reasoning mind. Through the experiential memories that we have stored, we have nurtured a performance capability that enables us to think and act ourselves. An animal or a bird does not act on thoughts. It lives and disappears the way it was created. We are not like that. We plan our life and establish based on the plan. That is why we call our life as a meaningful life, rational life. Only the aspect of memory gives explanation by distinguishing each and everything. It makes us to understand. Only with the help of our thoughts, memories, we understand by distinguishing between us and the vehicles that come across us. If we are unable to understand that way, unable to distinguish and know, we will not be able to give way to the vehicle that comes across us. Only by understanding this way through discrimination, we are able to carry out our activities well. What is understanding by discrimination? We identify everything with the information stored. We set boundaries to everything by distinguishing them separately. It is only through the stored information and our ideas that we distinguish and understand everything. We think that we have known fire by touching the fire. In reality, we do not perceive the fire. We only perceive the reaction caused in our hands by the fire. We think that we see the fire. In reality, fire is not something that is contained in our vision. The sight of fire reflects in our eyes. We only know the reflection, not the reality of the fire. We see only the reflections reflecting in our senses. We assume the reason behind such reflection ourselves. Only the reflections that occur in our senses and the reactions exist as our experiences. All our experiences are within certain limits. They are restricted by our senses. The sensory experiences that are limited are again restricted more by our ideas. We appreciate this knowledge by restriction, limitation as discrimination. What we call knowledge in practical life is knowing through restrictions. What we call as chit is not this discrimination, not knowing through restrictions. We call the source, which is the ability to know, as chit, awareness. That remains as ananta, infinite, without getting restricted. This chit ability to know exists naturally as Atma Swarupa, the natural state of Atma. In our practical life, we do not consider this chit, true knowing ability, to mean wisdom. We cannot know anything with the help of our wisdom or intellect. But we are in an illusion that we are knowing everything. If there is a tree in front of us, we do not know the tree. No one else will be able to know the tree other than the tree itself. No one will know how the tree is. Even then, we know the tree. How do we know? We know only the reflection created in our retina by the tree. All those reflections are just the shadows. But what we know in the name of a tree is just the reflective shadow of the tree. Even that reflective shadow is not perceived as it is. We paint the reflective shadows with the burnt remains of the past experiences. We identify the tree as a banyan tree or a peepal tree. A cricket player played very well, hit more than a century, and came as a champion out of the ground. Everyone expressed happiness and appreciated him. One person alone asked the cricket player with a sad face, "Why did you disappoint me like this?" The cricket player could not understand anything. He asked that person, "Did I not play well? How did I disappoint you?" That person gave an explanation. "Usually you do not play like this. Hence, I had a bet with my friend saying that you would not score 100 runs. But you played well and disappointed me. I have lost 10,000 rupees because of you." The cricket player did not really know that person. Can he be responsible if that person has had a betting on him? Similarly, the tree in front of us does not know who we are. The tree does not know that it has reflected in our eyes and that we have given a name, banyan tree, to that reflective image. We do not know anything else about the tree directly except the reflection caused in us by the tree. Whatever we see are just the reflective images that occur in our senses and the images we attach to them through our memories. We understand only these mixed experiences of pleasure and pain that occur in us as a result of the reflective images. What that works within us is the chit aspect, the first level. But it is not an experience itself. It is the source of all kinds of experiences. All the experiences that occur in our senses because of this source are the second level. Whatever in the world that we know can be known only by converting them into sensory perceptions, converting them into the second level. We get sensory feelings through the outer objects outside us reflecting in our senses. Fire reflects in our sense of touch. It also reflects in our eyes. We perceive the heat of the fire through our sense of touch. We perceive its image through the reflections that are caused in our eyes. Likewise, we perceive water, each and every object. Each and everything exists as a reason behind its expression by creating reflections in our senses in a unique manner. Fire exhibits heat, exhibits light. Water exhibits chillness. It also shows its image and taste. Will the chit aspect also exhibit its uniqueness in our second level senses, like the outer objects exhibiting their own uniqueness in our second level senses? Will the chit aspect exhibit itself as a unique sensory perception? Like the way we understand, the sensory feeling was caused by fire. That sensory feeling was caused by water. Or, like saying that this was a sensory feeling caused by the chit aspect, is there any unique sensory perception exists? Because whatever we know are all that our senses exhibit on us. The mixed experiences of pleasure and pain that we come across are also the sensory experiences that occur in our nervous systems. We do not know anything other than the sensory experiences. Will the first level chit aspect exhibit any unique sensory feeling for itself? When we see a tree, we actually do not see the tree. We perceive only the reflective side it creates in our senses. We will not be able to perceive directly a tree or fire or anything else. We don't even know how they exist in their state. All that we know is their reflection, the reflection caused in our senses. Like this, we may not know the Chit aspect directly. We may not even know how it would be. But would it create a unique exposure for itself in our senses? All the exposures that emerge as sensory feelings are the exposures of Chit aspect only. There is no separate exposure for Chit aspect exclusively. The existential awareness that I exist is also a manifestation of the sensory perception created by our mental activities. There is no direct relationship between that and the Chit aspect. 5 different sensory consumptions, sensory perceptions like seeing, hearing, etc. occur in us. How do all these work? Do all the senses work together simultaneously, or do they work one after one? Will other senses not be working when one sense expresses a view or a feeling? Which ones do we perceive? Which ones do we not perceive? For example, we are listening to the music and enjoying it. The sense of hearing helps us in this. What do the other senses do when the sense of hearing is in action? Are they taking rest without reflecting anything? In reality, all our senses are wide open. The reflective traits associated with all our senses continue to exist in our senses. But primarily, we perceive only that feeling which we are attentive with our mind. The other sensory perceptions appear to have lost significance like the day moon. The synchronization of the mind like this is called involvement of the mind, concentration, paying attention, etc. This involvement of mind synchronizes itself where there is interest. In case of lack of interest, we have to try hard to synchronize this attention. All the meditative practices have been designed to be focusing this attention on something or the other. We may be concentrating on our breath. We may be concentrating on our thoughts or our body movements, or fix our attention on a point in our body, or even paying attention to the attentiveness itself. The activities of the attention exist like this in many different ways. What is this attention? Whatever we attempt to perceive, we may not be able to perceive anything without this attention. Is it this attention that acts as a source of everything? The Chit aspect of the Atma? Even this is just the expression of Chit aspect only, not the Chit aspect itself. This attention is also a part of our mental activity. We can maneuver this as we wish. What is this attention? What is its activity? Before knowing this, it will be quite useful to know a little information on our sleep. We know that 3 kinds of experiences such as consciousness, dream and sleep occur. Consciousness is the waking state. In the conscious state, we will know whatever happens. We know everything about what we are doing, what have we connected with, etc. Here, our attentiveness alone works in totality. Our attentiveness understands the activities of our senses and our mind very well. Only through this are we able to face our routine work on a day-to-day basis. Our dream state is a state of exposure through a combination of our attentiveness and our thoughts. As all the senses are under rest here, there are no reflections in the senses. Here, only our body is under rest. So, nothing related to our body comes to our attention. Only the mind is awake here. Our attention goes along with the thoughts that occur on their own. This is our dream state. In a dreamless sleep, the mind along with the body is under rest. When both the mind and the body are taking rest, it becomes impossible for the attentiveness also to reflect anything. It becomes impossible for exposing anything by combining with any other thing. Even then, there exists the awareness. It does not express anything. During sleep, we are in the form of this attentiveness, this awareness. As we become just this awareness, we, who are in this state of being, are called pragyan by the Shastras. Prajna means the capacity of knowing. During sleep, we are in the form of this attentiveness, this awareness. As it does not expose anything, we are in a state of not knowing anything. Some describe this sleep as a comfortable experience. Our Shastras describe this sleep as a trait of our Anandamaya Kosha, sheath made of bliss. But during sleep, we do not get any experiences. During dreaming, we may get some experiences, but during dreamless sleep, we do not get any experience. Then, how can we say that sleep is comfortable, blissful? In the absence of any knowledge, how to perceive this comfort? How to perceive this bliss? Let us see an example. There is a wedding function going on in your house. Because of that, you have lost sleep for 3 days. There has been restless work for the past 3 days. You have not slept well during these 3 days. Especially, you have not at all slept in the last day. All programs come to an end in 3 days. There is no work on the 4th day for you. You are earmarking that day for your rest. You are sleeping and taking rest after breakfast. Because of the hectic work and the resulting exhaustion, as you have not slept well in the past 3 days, you go to deep sleep within 2 minutes of going to your bed. You have slept only for 1 hour. Someone is waking you up saying that there is another important work pending. That is also an important work. It is necessary for you to go out with regard to that work. But you are half asleep. You will get rid of your exhaustion only if you sleep for at least 2 or 3 hours. You are being pulled to sleep because you have just caressed the sleep and left it half over. At the same time, you are being summoned by the duty to work. Sleep pulls you inside and duty pulls you outside. If you carefully observe this state, you will understand the characteristic of sleep. The blissful, comfortable state of the sleep will be visible to you only when the sleep is dispersed but also not dispersed. You will be able to perceive that sleep has occupied you as a blissful and comfortable feeling. This kind of experience can only be felt during daytime sleep. Anandamaya Kosha, the sheath made of bliss, is nothing but this kind of awareness, a feeling of attentiveness. All meditative practices are aimed at activating this Anandamaya Kosha. We can activate our blissful feelings by diverting our attention on our attention itself. We can remain in the state of attentiveness with the feelings inactive. Bringing out the attentiveness without any kind of experience through our endeavor is known as Nirvikalpa Samadhi. If we perceive only the blissfully ecstatic state of Anandamaya Kosha without perceiving anything else, then we call that as Bhava Samadhi. All these are the expressions of the traits of our mind. Even though the source of all these is our Chit aspect, all the expressions are perceived as the traits of the mind and the sensory perceptions. As far as the Chit aspect is concerned, it is just a source of all the experiences, but not an experience in itself. It is not an unique experience. The Shastras that describe the Chit aspect of the Atma and the Brahman in various ways pass on a conclusion like this. One whose mind does no longer dwell on whether he knows Brahman or not, but who remains identified with pure consciousness or knowledge is not merely a knower. That man whose mind is not subject to distraction is not merely a knower of Brahman, but Brahman itself. So declare the sages versed in the scriptures of Vedanta. Panchadasi 4.6867. Chit aspect, that is, the Atma does not forget itself once and then again knows itself. Atma does not attain mukti after having been in the samsara. The one who thinks that he is the jiva, individual self, only has to attain mukti. Not giving importance to the expression of jiva and giving total freedom to the function of jiva is liberation. Not giving importance to jiva means giving importance to the original chit, Atma. Chit aspect alone shines through our perceptions of body and mind. Chit aspect is expressed as the bodily consciousness and psychological consciousness. There are both pleasure and pain feelings in our senses. Some of our bodily perceptions are likable and some of them are not likable. For example, let's take our tongue. Sweet taste makes our tongue happy. Bitter taste causes strain. Due to this, our tongue does not argue saying, I will express only sweetness, not the bitterness. But our mind that acts along with our senses accepts all the sensory consumptions as its own consumptions and likes to keep some perceptions and abandon some. Chit aspect does not have an issue, so it does not need mukti, liberation. Senses do not seek liberation even though there are problems in the sensory perceptions. We saw that our chit aspect acts as 4 levels, 4 layers. Chit aspect existing as chit aspect itself is the first layer. Senses act in the second layer. We come across a person while walking on the road. Using our senses, we see him, his image. These are the sensory experiences that occur in the second layer. We understand that person whom we saw as our close friend through our mind and the recordings in the mind. This is the third layer. Having understood the person whom we saw as our close friend, we receive an experience of happiness, a vivacious feeling, and the satisfaction of having met an important person. These kinds of experiences occur in the fourth layer. In all these 4 layers, where is samsara, bondage, attachment, problem? First 2 layers are natural. They will be like that. They will act like that. Changes are not possible there. Third and fourth layers are artificial. There is artificiality mixed with naturality. Chit aspect emerges like a perceptive trait in our senses and in our sensory mind. Even in the senses that act in the second layer, this perceptive trait, this knowing nature, this awareness, this chit aspect only acts through senses. Our senses will act like this irrespective of whether mukti is attained or not. The job of the senses is to show as it is the reflection of what our senses encounter. There is no relationship between mukti and the job of the senses. Likewise, there is no relationship between samsara and the senses. Irrespective of whether we are in bondage or in liberation, our mind in the third layer distinguishes each and everything through its memories. First 2 layers are natural, so it is common for all. Senses of all of us act in the same way. But this third layer, mind, is not natural. This is artificial. The first and second layers are living reality. Third layer is made up of memories. Memory means dead things. In the third layer, living things take the role of dead things. Chit takes the role of Jatam. Atma takes the role of Anatma. Rope takes the role of a snake. This acts for everyone based on the memories stored using individual experiences. Here, our contribution of memory is high, so it is artificial. Our eyes show the reflection of a person it encounters. You understand him as your friend. I identify him as a person undesirable to me. That person becomes a friend to you, but undesirable to me. You become happy because you met him, but I get a hatred feeling. All this vary from person to person. You will get experiences based on the mental recordings. I get experiences based on my mental recordings. These recordings bring happiness to us and also distress. Only due to this, we come to know that our freedom has been snatched away and we are bonded. It is here that we need freedom, liberation. Our mukti liberation is all about our third and fourth layer.